So, wow. Just wow. I can't put any other word out there than wow. So, back in April, my iMac, the hard drive died, okay? And I mean completely died. Just, okay? I could get to my boot screen perfectly fine, but when I tried to log into any of my accounts, nothing. Then I had a bit of a brainstorm. For those of you who have not been longtime followers of my channel, I have been a Linux user off and on for the past 15 years. Now, I never went to it full time because historically, my vision was bad enough to where the default accommodations of those systems didn't quite meet my needs. That changed, however, when my cataract surgery was a success. My vision's been considerably better than it has been, and the fact that I'm literally able to talk to you on this Debian Linux install with the Mate desktop on a computer without any magnification, without any additional assistance. I mean, that's huge. Now you're probably wondering, well, what computer am I using this on? Well, you're not going to believe this. Remember, dead hard drive, okay? But check this out. Boom. For those of you who cannot see, I'm going to read to you what's on the screen. Operating system Debian GNU/Linux 11 Bullseye x86-64 architecture, which is just to say your average Intel processor. Host iMac 14,1 version 1.0. Now, how on earth did I manage to do that? Well, it turns out when I ran this as a live install, it turns out that it recognized the solid state drive. Now, for those of you who do not know, this Mac came with a Fusion drive. Apple, in their software, had designed it to be a RAID. What that means is two drives tied up into one. In this instance, we have our hard drive, which is a terabyte size, and a solid state drive, which is 128 gig. That solid state drive is still beating to this day. That solid state drive is what's hosting Debian and able to give this computer brand new life. This is an 8-year-old computer that would have gone to recycling, and guess what? It is here. I am talking to you on it right now. It's got a new lease at life. As I mentioned before, I started my journey with Linux with Ubuntu 7.04 Feisty Fawn. I can't believe it's been 15 years since that day. It's just incredible. It is just incredible to think that much time has passed. Now, have I always been a Linux user full time? No. Again, because of their lack of accessibility in terms of needing something that met my needs. Now, again, my vision was a lot worse, okay? It was a lot worse to the point where, depending on the screen, I needed a lot more magnification than I do now. Back then, you didn't have something that was stable, okay? Even now, it's best to look to the newer desktop environments like GNOME or Unity, particularly GNOME, to have a usable magnification experience. What I'm using here, this desktop, what's called Mate, which looks an awful lot like the Ubuntu screenshot, which ran GNOME 2, and Mate is a continuation of GNOME 2. I cannot find a solid magnifier to replicate what I had on the Mac, on Mac OS, okay? The closest thing that I've been able to find is this other application that I genuinely cannot remember the name of off the top of my head at the moment. And it's just not usable, unfortunately. So, what exactly can you do with the Linux system? Well, first of all, I'm going to show you something. For those of you who watched my prior video, I've Got Pi, you may recognize this. This is a Raspberry Pi 400. It comes with, it comes with Pi OS, Raspberry Pi OS. Raspberry Pi OS, believe it or not, is based on this operating system that I'm talking to you from right now, which is Debian. And you can do pretty much anything with this computer, okay? Within reason. Now, when I say anything, who am I addressing particularly, I should say? I'm addressing the average computer user. Let me show you something. So we're going to go in here. We're going to open up a terminal. We're going to go into VirtualBox. What we're going to do, and for those of you who can see, you can probably see below, I've got two operating systems here. We're going to take a look at Raspberry Pi OS first. We're going to go ahead and start it. Yes, that's fine. Go to full screen. Get rid of this. And get rid of that. Now, because we're running this in a virtual machine, the operating system proportions, the windows might be out of whack. But right now, we're running the Raspberry Pi operating system. Go in here and check this out. We've got everything we need. We've got a full Office suite. LibreOffice is an equivalent, of Microsoft Office. Internet. You've got your Google Chrome, Chromium web browser. You've got your mail client, and you can download anything you want. Now, at the moment, I can't do that because this operating system, this particular flavor of Raspberry Pi OS, doesn't seem to be actively developed at the moment. But, again, I mean, you've got so much software out of the box with this computer. I mean, if you're just a general purpose computer user, all you're doing is utilizing the web, doing basic stuff like office tasks and even some light gaming, you can actually use Linux right out of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. We're going to go back here real quick. I'm going to show you something. We're going to get out of here. And what software can you utilize on Linux? You can literally utilize anything. Okay? So graphics. Go to Inkscape. For those of you who are familiar with Adobe Illustrator, Inkscape is the open source equivalent to Illustrator. You've got pretty much everything you need. For example, I can go up to filters here, and we can do bevels, blurs, drop shadows, pretty much everything that we could possibly need. You got your swatches down here. I mean, this is... Now, will it do absolutely everything? No, but it will do 90 to 95% of everything that you need to do. And again, most of this stuff, it just comes out of the box. Firefox comes pre-installed. The Office suite, that comes pre-installed. You can even run Windows applications. What's booting up now is a Windows game, okay? And again, this is running as if it were native. Now, this particular game also is available for Linux. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten along to the point where I'm able to make the file, because sometimes in Linux, I'm going to be honest, there are times where things don't quite come out of the box as you would expect them to. You basically have to build them. It's kind of like a Lego set, right? One of my objectives with this system and with the Raspberry Pi is to learn about that stuff, to learn how to build something, how something works, getting my hands dirty. Okay? But as you can see, through the Wine emulator, this software works flawlessly. Not everything does. And for those instances, you probably noticed that I do have Windows 10 installed on here. And this is legit Windows 10 running on a Linux operating system. Now, what's the advantage? Linux, you're using Linux every single day. You just don't know it. If you're using Gmail, you're using Linux. Especially if you're on an Android phone, you're using Linux. Now, the problem with those implementations is that they're not open source, which is to say that if you wanted to get your hands dirty, you wanted to look at the code, you wouldn't be able to do that, which is one really big disadvantage of the way some people have implemented Linux. But this is literally full Windows 10 running on a virtual machine. So for example, shut up. I could go to Steam, and I could download, install, get out of there. I mean, again, this is literally full Windows running in a virtual machine. Now, I'm going to come back and install this later. I don't want to bore you guys, but you get the point. You are not strapped. You are not left wanting with a Linux computer. Now, because of the open source nature of Linux, it's also more secure and more solid. Let's go back. We'll go back to the terminal here, and I'll run this command. It's neo fetch. And take a look here. Uptime. 1 day, 16 hours, 24 minutes. And let me tell you something. Aside from some minor issues that I thought I'd caused myself, I have never, ever shut the system down. The system, I put it into suspend mode, but I never shut it down completely. Now, Linux does have its quirks. Everything has its quirks. This particular iMac has a Broadcom wireless card that out of the box will not work at all. The hardware is listed as available, but the software just won't interact with it. Again, that's an issue with Broadcom. There is a way to get past that, but I decided to heck with it. I would just get a wireless extender and an Ethernet cable. Be a lot easier. However, there are other ways around this. So if we go to now, I realize there's another website besides DistroWatch that allows you to select your distro, but frankly, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. So let's go to one of the distributions that I think an average an average everyday computer user would use, and that is not in view right now. That is my fault. Where are you? Here we are. Linux Mint. Again, it uses the Debian operating system that I'm using here as a base, but let's take a look around, right? We have our start menu, just like Windows. We have a lot of programs. We've got our Office, we've got our Internet, we've got graphic design. We've got accessibility options. Lately, I've seen more distributions that allow you to install with speech. So Linux has come a very long way. And the best part is, if you have an old computer, you want to avoid adding to e-waste, that's where Linux can really, really help. You can do what I've done. You can take your old hardware, if it's just the software that's the problem, or even if it is a piece of hardware like the RAM or the hard drive and the software is not playing nicely with it, you can swap it out, install Linux, and give that system a new lease on life. So I will be doing more videos from this iMac in the future. I cannot express how happy I am to have taken the plunge and put Linux on here. I genuinely didn't think that I would ever find another use for this system. I thought its time had come. I can't put into words how happy I am. But what do you guys think? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.